All right. So we just got done listening to The Science of Leveraging a Growth Mindset by Dr. Heidi Grant. And guys, this was huge. I mean, we talk about this all the time. We talk about you have to have a positive mindset. You have to have a growth-oriented mindset. That's why you're here on these trainings and on these Zooms, so that you can get the information that you need in order to grow. And she starts out by saying, what leads to success? Everybody thinks success happens from a bunch of different things, but she said what the science boils everything down to through thousands of studies is that the single most powerful factor of being more successful in achieving goals is your mindset and the mindset that you bring to it. So if we know that that's one of the most important things, not just that we're saying that it is, that science and studies back that, don't you think we should learn about it? So the first thing that she talks about is the difference between having a fixed mindset and having a growth mindset. So what is a fixed mindset? Well, a fixed mindset is when you're operating in such a way that you don't look at any other option. You have a stance and you hold it to be true, even if it's wrong. What does that do for you? That takes you off of a path of being able to see past and grow where you currently are. She said, when you're operating from a fixed mindset, you think that the point of what you're doing is to prove your ability. The other thing is, when you're in a fixed mindset, you're always focused on comparing yourselves to others. It's one of those things that when you start looking at the things that you're doing, you look at them in comparison to how other things are doing, because that's what your focus is on. She said, when things are harder than you thought they would be, you immediately begin to doubt your ability. So what happens is we get anxious, and it pretty much undermines all of our performance because we have a fixed mindset. The other thing about a fixed mindset is we feel that a sense of failure is what we are when things get challenging. So you take a lot of what it is and you put it on yourself. So when things get challenging, you become to feel like a failure. So now that we know what a fixed mindset is, what are the things that we can do to change to be in a growth mindset? Well, first, you should probably understand what a growth mindset does. Said a growth mindset is not about got to make sure that I got that right, because it would be really bad if I got it wrong. A growth mindset is not about proving your ability, but improving your ability. So where in a fixed mindset, you're trying to prove what you can do, in a growth mindset, you are always trying to improve the things that you're able to do. We are trying to develop the skills that we have rather than demonstrate how good we are at them. So with your skills, you're looking at new ways to stretch and strengthen them versus showing how good you are at them. John Maxwell says it all the time. The enemy of good is good. Why? Because of the fact when you get to a level of good, you all of a sudden stay there. When you have a greater mentality, that's when you start growing. Kind of like the same thing with better and best. John says the enemy of better is best, because when you think you're at your best, you've done growing. You all of a sudden think that you've got all of the answers. But when you look to being better all the time, you will continually grow and you never end. It's a journey, not a destination. The other thing that we do is we focus less on how we're doing compared to others, and we focus on how we're doing better than how we used to do. So having a growth mindset is about focusing on how you're becoming a better version of you versus a better version of other people. So one of the benefits that happen with people that have a growth mindset is they see a bunch of changes in different areas of their life. So some of the benefits behind having a growth mindset is you have more interest and enjoyment in the things that you're doing. You take smarter, more calculated risks because you're learning about the things that you're doing, not just doing them blindly. You are a deeper thinker. You actually encourage conversations more than just going at it without talking about it. You have a greater amount of creativity because you're enjoying and you are providing and asking for collaboration with others. You are more persistent and resilient with a growth mindset because you know that failure is not a bad thing. A growth mindset is one of the strongest predictors out of all of those studies that show you can be successful. So when you look at the difference between the people that are successful and the people that are not successful, the largest differentiation is the way that they think. The next thing that she talks about is that your growth mindset helps you learn from mistakes, where fixed mindsets, they don't have the physical capacity because of how they look at negative situations to learn from it. With a growth mindset, your brain is wired to actually see the problem as a learning activity, where with a fixed mindset, your brain is wired to ignore anything to learn and just feel the pain of what you're going through. So if you want to feel less pain in your life, let's start looking at how you can turn things in your life into a growth activity. So she talks about the 3 things that you have to do in order to develop a growth mindset. The first one is notice, then shift. Second is changing your language. And the third is focusing on progress. So when she's talking about noticing a shift, she said it's kind of the way that you think things. She said, when you're thinking things like, I'm not good at this, or I don't think I can, the things that you need to start telling yourself and the things you need to start thinking is, I'm not good at this yet. I'm not about being good at this. I'm about being better at this tomorrow. So when you get through those things and you tell yourself, this isn't for me, maybe what you need to start saying is, I'm going to do better at this next time. And when you start thinking about all of the things that you're going through, the next thing that you need to ask yourself is, what am I going to do next? You know, when people look at their past and they look at their history and they want to dwell on those things, there has to be a cutoff point. And that cutoff point has to be something that changes your focus from everything that's going on in the past and all of the negative fixed thoughts to the growth thoughts of moving forward in the future. So how do you do that? You say, what am I going to do next? So that's the question. What are you going to do next? And the way that you create these habits, she said, is do more of it and more of it and more of it. And then it will become an automatic thing in your life. She said, you can search, you can Google how to create a habit, and you'll get unlimited amounts of different answers. And she said, none of them may actually apply to you. And the reason why is because everything in every situation and every person is different. But she did say that the one fundamental of creating a habit is to do something more often and more of, and then eventually it begins to take over. You can't do it 3 days and then skip 3 days and think that it's going to happen. You just have to keep doing it until it becomes automatic. How long that takes depends on you, the situation, and what you're trying to create as a habit. The second thing is talking about changing your language. So you have to pay attention to the words that you use around yourself. So you need to start using these kind of words: growth, progress, improve, become, develop, over time. She said, with a fixed mindset, most people tend to make everything about a pass or a fail in their life. So what people want to do is they say, I want to have healthy habits, or I want to be a successful leader. Those are finite thoughts because they're a pass fail. It's like, I want to be right now, or I want to have right now. But instead, when you say, I want to have healthy habits, instead say, I want to develop healthy habits. It becomes a journey. You continue to go on it. It's something you're going to continue to work and learn on. When you say, I want to be a successful leader, instead say, I want to become a successful leader. You're going on that journey. It's going to be something that's going to take time and you're going to learn about. So when you're going on these things, it's more about the challenging of growth versus the destination of being somewhere. The last thing that she talked about was focusing on progress. People only tend to think about what's happening right now. So when you're looking at the problems that you're coming up with, or even the solutions and the things that are going well, you tend to focus on what's happening right in this moment. She said there's a rule of three when it comes to what you should be focusing on. Whenever something arises, ask, where were you? So look at your past and see how far you've come. Where are you now? So you know that you are in a new place. And where do you want to be? Where are you going? So you look to see how far you've come from where you were. So now you know where you are and then where you want to be. And use this when giving yourself feedback, because it's so easy for us to beat ourselves up because of where we are right now, but we don't actually take the time to look at where we came from. She said it's better for you to go from just being horrible, like anything that you do at the first time, to being okay, than going from good to great. Because it's a lot harder to go from being absolutely horrible at something to being just okay. And nobody gives themselves credit for that versus being good at something and getting better at it. So take some time to look at where you're at today based on where you were, and then look at where you are today and tell yourself where you're going. She said to encourage a growth mindset in others, we have to do three things. We as leaders have to draw attention to our own mistakes, because what that does is that gives people the ability to feel comfortable about making mistakes, because we know that there is no growth without mistakes. Number two is you have to share stories of your past challenges. You know, when you share stories of your past challenges, it shows how you actually went from being where you were to where you are now. And that gives people encouragement that they can go from where they are to somewhere new in the future. And third, focus on rewarding progress and persistence. You know, that's one of the things that we tend to not do. We tend to reward the end goal, the destination, the final part. But we know that when people fall in love with the process and they feel that they're doing good, even though they may not have hit their goal yet, they are willing to stay on, work longer, and work harder because they know that they're making the small steps necessary to get to the goals that they're trying to accomplish. So that's pretty much everything that she covered when it comes to the science of leveraging a growth mindset. So guys, make sure that you share this with people on your team, because once they get this information and they understand what they need to know in order to grow, it's going to help them become bigger and better and more for not only themselves, but for the people that they're trying to impact. So guys, go out and make it an amazing week. And I hope your week is as awesome as you are. We'll see you soon.